there's an Italian artist called Salvatore Garau, Garau, and he sold an invisible artwork sculpture for $18,000. Welcome to another episode of Bench Talk. I'm your host, Tom Gerrard. Today I'm bringing a new format episode. I'm sitting here with my good friend Wayne Lim from the Future History podcast, and we've got a new segment here called Artsurdity, where we're going to deconstruct and talk about absurd things that are happening within the art world. This is just a light-hearted conversation and us two going back and forth. We're going to, it's the first episode we've done of this, so we're going to see how it goes. But we've been finding some fun things to talk about, and I look forward to diving into them with Wayne. How you going, Wayne?
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, good, mate. Hey, this has been a lot of fun to research, as you promised it would be, and it has given me a different perspective on how to approach art and how to see it. So let's just jump in, man. I think there's art by nature is pretty absurd. So trying to find some topical things isn't too hard. It's just a matter of like how absurd you want to go.
Yeah, but I think the beauty of it is it can be very serious at one end, and then very lighthearted at the other, and then very conceptual. There's like art, when you say the word art, it can mean so many different things. So there's a whole lot of people doing interesting stuff out there. And I think art is innate within all of us humans, whether we express it or not. So let's just sort of see what some of the quirkier people out there are doing, eh?
Yeah, dude, I agree, man. I think that there's going to be a lot of, like already the things that we're going to be discussing, there's already a lot of dialogue around it. Some people that are taking this far too seriously, especially for the context of what it's meant to be, how it's meant to be spoken about. And I think that, this is kind of why we're doing this, is to try to give it a more of a holistic type of view that sometimes, man, you could just have a bit of fun with things. And even things that are done seriously can also be viewed in a very playful, fun way.
Yeah. Cool. Well, do you want me to kick it off, or?
I think so. I think the one that you have is really going to set the tone of what this is all about. And there are things that are going to be that'll spin off that, but go lead with yours, man, because I thought that this one here is pushing it to the nth degree. And I think that when we kind of get into this one a little bit, people are going to start to understand, even for us, we get to understand how far you can really push what art is and how absurd it can really be. Go.
Okay. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I'm not a big one for reading the news or watching the news or anything, but I rely solely on the Instagram accounts I follow and conversations I have with other people. But something popped up on my phone the other day, so I'm going to read this directly off Instagram. But it's something that happened a while ago. But there's an Italian artist called Salvatore Garau, Garau, and he sold an invisible artwork sculpture for $18,000. I don't know if that was US dollars or what, but yeah, it's called the sculpture's called Lo Sono, and it stands for I am. So yeah, he says that it says here that the buyer received only a certificate of authenticity. The piece itself is immaterial, and Garau insists that the sculpture exists as air and spirit, with a 5 by 5 foot space, and is meant to stimulate the imagination. You don't see it, but it exists in the art. But it exists, the artist said, defending the work as a conceptual exploration of energy and presence. And it's not the first time he's done this either. He's got two other similar works. One's called Buddha in Contemplation, and the other one is called Aphrodite Peonage. And I just think it's an interesting thing to say, there's a plinth and there's my artwork there. You can't see it, but you can sense it, and it's sort of like taking control of space and air, but then selling it for 18K with a certificate of authenticity. I think it's hey, good on him, man. If you can do it, like, man,
I
he's
think
saving a
so.
fortune on like his studio. Like, he doesn't need a studio. He
No,
doesn't need anything. He
doesn't
doesn't
need
need to pay
much. He
rent.
actually doesn't need much. He doesn't need really
Think
anything.
of the material cost.
But
Yeah,
there was that image that was captured of still wearing the white gloves, which I love as well. This, just to
yeah,
really hone in that it's still a delicate,
yeah.
delicate piece of work. You don't want to disrupt the energy within that space that's contained in there. I love that, man. I think that really pushes. You're a big believer in anyone can be an artist, and I do side with you. I think this one here is really going to be challenging that faith, and I get it. I understand that because it's one of those things. Is like if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to see it and hear it, you know, has it really has a tree fallen in the woods? It's something like, I guess, like if you were just if you couldn't feel, touch, see, sense anything, and you were still within the presence of a piece of art, like the artwork still exists, right? I guess.
Mm.
So it's essentially that, like it's something that you can't necessarily sense with the tactile senses, but is it there? Give us your take. I want to hear your take on this. Is it art?
Well, I think that if you spoke to the artist, like if you see photos of the artist, he's a very serious looking guy. And I bet you
Yeah.
he can talk it up really well. Like I
Yeah.
bet you he can like talk the subject up beautifully. He's probably been through art school. He's probably really good at articulating his ideas. And I've been to art galleries where there's been conceptual works in there, and it could be like a
Mm.
pile of dirt in the corner of the
Yeah.
gallery. But just because someone puts a pile of dirt in the corner of a gallery, there's something there to look at, and there's something tangible, and that pile of dirt could be sold for the same price, but still you're just buying a pile of dirt. Um, it's it's just sort of taking that one step further and just saying that this is energy because I know I bet you he's really looked into like energetics and all that type of stuff.
Hmm.
Quantum physics, and all these things that happen. You could probably talk to all that sort of stuff, and you know, I I just think good on him.
I think so as
Because
well,
it's
man. I think that if
pretty
you can pull
ballsy,
that off,
pretty bold. Mm,
yeah, it doesn't get any bolder than that. I think that's the pinnacle
mm,
of what the art of art of conceptual art rather. I don't think that you can sell it's nothing. I don't think. Yeah,
mm.
he sold nothing essentially, but managed to. It's great branding, I've got to say. I think that's essentially what it is as well, right? Like it's a good brand. He was able to inject all this essence and this sense of something into nothingness. And I guess that's also what a good brand is something that you feel and then you understand, but there's nothing really that's attached to it to make you think that is the brand. It's like a logo. It's like the logo is not the brand. The logo is a representation of something, but his representation is just it's something that it's felt by the person that shelled out 18K. I guess that they understand what it is, but it also kind of like begs the question that we don't really have the same relationship with money and and I guess like ownership of things. We all don't have that same kind of take on it, right? Like the person that bought it, their 18 grand to them is not going to be the same 18 grand it is for us. So, there's layers to this, but it is, I don't know, I find this, that's going to be one of the most absurd, the absurd
Yeah.
plays on what art is.
But if you think about it as well, this is his third time doing it. So I wonder if the person who bought it has looked at the resale value on his previous two, sculptures of air and spirit and energy, and yeah, and they've probably gone up in value. They might have sold at on the secondary market, and there's been an increase in value in them and things like that. Because, like, I remember back in the '90s and early 2000s, there was lots of video works being sold, and all you get handed is a DVD. And now, like today,
Mm.
there's not really DVD players around and stuff like that. But people were paying like hundreds of thousands of dollars for a video work, and all you got handed was a burnt DVD with a signature on it and a certificate of authenticity. So, like this type of artwork has sort of been on the cusp for years. Like ever since what's his name? The dude that did the toilet. Oh, gone blank.
Yeah, I was just looking at this one.
Everyone would be screaming at their devices
Yeah.
right now. But you know what I mean? Like that was the first piece of conceptual art, and where someone had taken something that exists and just put it in the gallery, signed it, and said that's it. And if you went and bought one of the urinals from the shop, it might have been like $100 or whatever, but then it sold for tens of thousands of dollars. And now, if you look at where its place in art history and what it'd be worth these days, it'd be worth
Ridiculous.
an absolute fortune.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many ways that you can look at how this conceptual art is, and then like even now, and this is without getting too deep into it because we could just like really like hone in on this, but then that plays into how we understand and appreciate crypto and NFTs, how it's just something that's easily replicated, but then there's something else, there's an essence to it where you're owning the original piece, but it's one for one the same as every other copy out there. So there's something else to it, much like how when you see, when you're walking around those big time galleries like the Louvre, how there will be these other artists that are one for one replicating the existing artwork, just about identical, and in many cases for these authenticators, it's indistinguishable from the original piece. So then there's something else other than just the actual artwork itself and the actual thing that's hanging up at the wall. There's something else that people are buying, or better yet, that's what the value is. The value isn't just the canvas and the oil paints and the framing of it. There's something else to it, and I guess that's what it is, right? Like and when you talk about conceptual art, there's so many ways, and when we want to try to look at things that are approaching art in a different way, there's that Maurizio Catalan, the one that did the gold toilet, that piece called America, right? Like there's just a bit of more of a social commentary on that. The same dude that did he was the same guy that put the banana with the duct tape, and it's just how absurd that art can be. But that's the point of that artwork was intentionally, like the urinal was intentionally put out there just to be ridiculous. And there are people that are just they'll be just crying foul and be like, that's just bullshit. It's like, well, yeah, that's the point. That was the point of it. The point of it was just to get these conversations going and for us to at least acknowledge that there's a lot of absurdity in art.
Yeah.
But
it's just spark conversation and get you thinking, and it's like, conceptual art is about thinking. And that's why if you look at conceptual art without reading about what you're looking at, it doesn't make any sense. Like a pile of dirt or a plinth with nothing on it. But once you read about the concept of the piece, that's where the art is, I guess, in the idea of something,
Yeah, and you don't have to agree. You don't have to like it either. It's, like, for the most part, like, yeah. Yeah, and it's like to each their own, really. I don't know. Music is a little bit different. Well, maybe not, because I see that there's either music or there's noise, and I guess that there's a lot of there's just sounds, right? That if you hear something, it doesn't necessarily make it music. It could just be noise. And I guess that a lot of these things could just be noise as well. But the noise is still kind of brought into the fold of what art is, where me just like banging on the table isn't music, but conceptually could be, it's the same as someone just, I guess, and it's the same as like Jackson Pollock just throwing whacking paint up on something. It's like, there you go, art. That's the same as me banging on a drum or banging on a table and just saying, here, these are my vibrations. There you go, music. Upload it to Spotify, away we go. But
well, music's a big one. Music is like art. It is art as well, but it's such a broad subject. But it's weird because there's so much industry involved and there's marketing and all that sort of stuff. And it does sort of cross over with the art world a bit, because you can look at the price of a massive artwork or a really expensive artwork and say, this is the most expensive artwork in the world. Does that mean it's the best artwork in the world? It's subjective. And it's the same as like saying, like in the early 90s, say when the Spice Girls came out, they sold more records than anyone else in that year. Does that mean that they were the best music to come out that year? And if you look, you got like Wu-Tang coming out and Nas with Illmatic and all these sort of things happening in that year, but they didn't sell anywhere near as much as the Spice Girls. So does it mean that they're better than them? Hell no. Or if you ask the right person, they might say yes.
Yeah,
It's all subjective.
very subjective. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard conceptual music though, so I can't. It'd be hard to gauge like music as an art form. I think there has to be some kind of appeal or resonance to it, but I don't know. Like, I mean, they're all. It's hard to make that comparison. Same with like movies, right? Like art house movies, and how you could have something that's just like remember in American Beauty how that guy was filming a plastic bag floating. That'll just be conceptual art, right? And there's no real narrative to it. There's real nothing other than just trying to peel back the layers and appreciate it as art. Which I mean, if I wanted to, I probably could, like if I really wanted to go there. But I don't find it offensive. But no, there was just the other day with going back to the Maurizio Catalan, his toilet, one of the thieves. So it was, I don't know. Do you know the story of that? The golden toilet?
I've heard bits. Yeah, you sound more informed than I do, so I'll let you go with it.
Yeah, it was stolen from a British museum in 2019, and one of the thieves was just yesterday, 2 days ago, convicted. The third thief within the group was convicted of theft and I think suspended sentencing and whatever else. But I think it just kind of goes to show. But then, okay, so firstly, that particular piece was like, it was about I think it was estimated $4 to $6 million worth of gold used in that, and it was available for people to use when it was in the Guggenheim. It was like an actual functioning toilet that was plumbed and everything that you could just use, and that was the idea, was just to add to that layer, like it was interactive art, so to speak, where you could actually use an 18-karat gold toilet, and it got nicked. But it was just that artist. Like I'd never really considered much about conceptual art until we started talking about what we're going to do for this. And then it was the same dude that did that banana duct tape to the wall, and I'm a fan of that. I love that because it is absurd. Not quite as absurd as an invisible sculpture, but it's still. I think that this guy, Maurizio, at least I feel as though that he's intentionally taken the piss, whereas that sculpture, I don't think he is. It was like what you were saying, he might actually be kind of serious about this, and that he is actually selling energy, which is great. But yeah, the whole idea that you can put a banana and put it up on the wall, and it's not even the same banana. It's always there's like clear instructions of how often it needs to be replaced with a fresher looking banana, and because obviously a banana is not going to keep on the wall. But there was the most recent selling of it. It was sold to Justin's son. He's a crypto entrepreneur, and bought it for, I think it was like 6.2 million US dollars. Bought it and then ate it, and I think there was just that was the, I don't know, it's a bit of a let them eat cake kind of situation, where just the complete absurdity and the disregard for value. It was, for him, it was like $6 million, whatever. For me, it's a snack.
Yeah, but he would have got the certificate of authenticity, and he can sell that on. Like, yeah, because I had a friend.
Yeah, he got it from Southies as well, so it was like it was legit. It was an authenticated banana.
Yeah, it would have been the certificate of authenticity is really buying, and it's the same with this invisible sculpture. So I've got a friend who works at the NGV in Melbourne, and he installs all the artworks, or not all of them. He works as part of a team, but he said that every day when the triennial was on and that piece, the comedian, was on display, he every day he just said he replaced a banana and just ate the banana that was there from the day before.
Wow.
So, but
with complete disregard.
Yeah,
where did he get the banana from?
It's a banana. Just eat it. Don't let it die in vain.
Yeah. Where did he
Yeah.
get the bananas from? Because I know they sell them at 7-Eleven for $1.
Oh, I don't
So
know.
was it a dollar banana?
Who knows? That's the end. He was just installing it. I'm sure he'd show up to work every day and there'll be a fresh banana for him. Because he'd probably have his like things that can't be too green. It needs to be like a perfectly ripe banana
Yeah.
or whatever, you know. But
Has to
every
be a
day
little
it's
bit brown. It needs to be browned a little bit. It can't be too yellow as well, because then it
mm,
looks too neat, too clean, too
mm,
polished. It has to be intentionally not intentional,
mm, yeah.
intentionally unintentional.
Mm,
But man, like I love it. Like I'd never really considered the absurdity of conceptual art, but I don't even know whether or not it's fair to call it absurd because it's still within the realm of rational slash irrational thought. We can have a conversation about it. So really, like, how absurd is it when we accept it within the space of art still? It's like, yeah, okay, I get it. I understand. Like, it's probably not my thing. I like it, but it's not for everyone, but it's still there. It has a place.
Hey artist, it's Claire here from the Art Career Academy. If you've been creating for years and you know it's time to go all in on your art career, then Tom and I are here to support you. If you're ready to grow your visibility, build more consistent income, and step fully into life as a professional artist, that's exactly what we help with. Our signature program, Going Pro, is designed for artists who are ready to uplevel. We support you with the clarity, confidence, and a solid plan to turn your creative practice into a thriving career, without the burnout or second guessing every move. At the Art Career Academy, we're all about raising up the art community and showing what's possible when artists back themselves. So to get started, grab our free Creative Cashflow cheat sheet. It's packed with 20 tried and tested ways to make an income from your art. Head to artcareeracademy.com to download it now. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
yeah. Well, I think it's an evolution of art. Like what conceptual art's only been around for, I don't know, it's probably not even 100 years old. But
Mm,
then if you think about going back to a music reference again, think about if back in the days of like classical music and then suddenly rock and roll shows up and they're just like, oh, it's just all noise. And
yeah,
then but then people's ear attuned to sort of rock and roll, but then like, punk comes out and then they're like, oh, that's just noise. But then people's ears are tuned to punk and then death metal comes through and all, like it's just new ways of pushing it. Whereas and I think as humans we're always looking for something, new ways to express ourselves. And I actually quite like conceptual art because it I I I was never a big reader. Like I go to art galleries and just look and not read the plaques and stuff like that. But now I'd look at a conceptual piece and just go, what the hell is that? Like, how did they even get this in the building? And then I'd read the plaque and then go, I get it. So it's it's with with visual arts like in paintings and stuff like that, where a lot of artists are just out there wanting to make a pretty picture. But then with
yeah.
conceptual artists, they're wanting to say something and get you thinking about something and in like implant a thought and an idea in your head to have you contemplate. And I think that's quite a powerful thing to do, you know.
Yeah, and it needs to be done. I think that whole contemplation and the dialogue, that's the important bit of it. Or you don't have to agree, you don't have to like it, but it has to kind of move the needle in one way. But funnily enough, it's those pieces that really get conversation going. Like if the idea of just slapping a banana on the wall, it's like, I mean, if you really think about it, there's not much to it. But the fact that when it was at an art fair and they had to get security in and usher people through to see a banana on the wall, then you think that it has to be doing and saying something. It's moving. It's not even moving the needle. It's full on just really just wiping it all the way across to the nth degree. Like people care one way or another. They care. They wanna either get offended by it or they want to learn something about it. I think that's kind of what makes it really cool. And maybe this is just the direction that this goes. We actually like look into how conceptual art, the absurdity of it, the artsurdity of it, and try to figure out what role it plays in this, and try to see in different areas of art expression. You know, I think art house movies will be a great place. Might even get me watching some because it's never been something that I've gravitated towards. But you know, I think that it's good just to try to see things through a different lens and challenge what we think we know.
Yeah. Well, I love the fact that it evokes emotion because some people get really pissed off about it. What the hell's that?
Big time.
And other people like laughing about it, and they're you know, there's all these different emotions flying around. Just
Yeah.
from
Yep.
a simple artwork. Like I interviewed a New York-based performance artist on the podcast a while ago, David Henry Nobody Jr. And years ago, he did these. He did the performance artwork with a friend called the Red Carpet Rollers, and they'd show up to really, you know, fancy buildings in New York and roll out the red carpet and stand there in tuxedos, and like they're waiting for celebrities to show up and rope off the area, and then people would just form around and be like, "Oh, who's coming?" and all this anticipation, and crowds would gather. And they'd just be filming. They'd have cameramen filming everyone's reactions to this, and you saw how excited people were getting. It's like, oh, who's coming? And like it evoked emotion out of all these random people on the streets from a simple fact of just rolling out some red carpet and standing next to it. You know,
That's funny, man.
yeah. Like when you think of it like that, it's like, and if you're in that world working in that way, and you're thinking, oh, what can we do next? And you're coming up with ideas. Like, doesn't that sound like a lot of fun?
Yeah, and then you could also then take that to the next level and have people walking down the red carpet that aren't celebrities, that are just everyday people, and celebrating them, and just trying to give them that celebrity treatment. Because at the end of the day, that's what celebrities are, right? Like, 'cause for one reason or another, you know, there are some people that are super talented and super gifted and hardworking that work their way up that societal totem pole, but then there are other people that is just fucking just landed in that spot, right? And then, you know, that they just they muscled their way into stardom, that don't really have much to offer society, but they're still they got the fame, you know, for whatever it's worth. They wanted it and they got it. So we can just pluck someone out from obscurity and be like, we're going to make you famous and get you to walk down the red carpet. And that's performance art.
It is, yeah. But the funny thing is that when you can, on the surface it seems really absurd, but the more you talk about it, the more I'm actually sold on these conceptual artworks. The more
Dude,
I
I'm the
like
same. I'm the same. I get it. I understand, because the thing is that, like, I could talk about, you know, you could talk about your particular, or anyone's art, right? If there's something that's tactile and tangible that we can look at and assume that it is art because it fits with the narrative of what art is, we will talk about not just the finished piece, but the essence behind it and beneath it, and I guess the value that the artist injected into it, and we will talk about that. But then if you take away the art, that still remains, right? Like all that we talked about, the waffle was still there, just the art's gone. And essentially that's what these guys have done. These artists have kind of just replaced that same essence with a banana on a wall, or with nothing, right? And they've substituted a nice piece like a Mona Lisa with air. So yeah, you're right, man. Like I was very much like, oh, okay, conceptual art, but I'm like, okay, all right. I think I see where this is going. I think I know what's happening here.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to wrap this up. For those of you who come across interesting stories that you'd like to hear us talk about, feel free to DM me on the Bench Talk Instagram. I'd love to see what's out there. It's yeah, better to have more brains and eyes searching than just ours. Also, thanks again for Wayne for taking the time to join me on this. And yeah, anyone out there looking for great creative podcasts, check out Future History Podcast by Wayne Lim. He interviews lots of great artists and creatives out there. It's great to watch on YouTube and also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. All right. Thanks, Wayne.